Hello, I hope this finds you well. I have been talking quite a bit about music over the last few months with family, friends and people online, and I just wanted to open that conversation up a little bit more, so I thought I would just do a little bit of a, not top albums necessarily, but just some albums that resonated with me in 2022 in the hope that it might spark some conversations, some other recommendations, and maybe you'll find something new that you like. I don't know. And also, I just really wanted to sit down and have a cup of tea before diving into some other computer-based projects. So thank you for giving me a reason to sit down with a cup of tea. In fact, it's not a tea, it's a tisane today. And I'll get it. So I am drinking a... It seemed really on brand, especially on focus for this episode. Lovely Aileen did a swap with me recently and kindly sent me a couple of tisanes as well, which was very, very sweet. And look, it's called Happiness is Heavy Metal. And it is very happy. I will put it down because it's not quite cool enough to drink just yet. I don't know. I would say in 2022 I didn't listen to loads of music, not like I normally would, and actually the stats, because I am that person, I still use Last.fm, last.fm. It's a very good website. It basically gives you a continual Spotify roundup telling you kind of what you've listened to. It squabbles or tracks the music you've been listening to. And I find that fascinating. So I'm still using that. And it gives you, you know, you listen to X many tracks this year. And then there's like a comparison of each year. And my listening was down, but I think I listened to a lot more audiobooks and I was watching just as many D&D podcasts on YouTube. So I've been consuming different media, but I have actively been listening to music when I'm listening to it. So I think once I am caught up with campaign 3 of Critical Role, I might pause campaign 1 for a bit longer. I might not consume any other D&D content for a little while so that I can explore, because there's so much new music coming out. Anyway, the first album I wanted to mention is No Trigger's album called Doctor Album that came out last year. It is so much fun. I've written a little bit of notes and I might look down just because, I tell you what, chaos. She's chaos. And I do have quite a lot of makeup on because I did finish recording another video recently. So I'm probably sparkling still like a Twilight vampire. But yes, Doctor Album by No Trigger is dangerously fun. It is incredibly poignant, and they are out to make a point, but they're doing it with fun and joy, and it's brilliant. There's a few tracks on there that absolutely stand out to me, and some of them are only a minute long, and I've listened to them on repeat quite a lot. So if you want some proper punk rock that is really, really fun, kind of tells it how it is, while still being quite jolly, I 10 out of 10 recommend it. The next one is a band that filled a void that Every Time I Die filled in me previously. Every Time I Die broke up or are on a permanent hiatus, we'll see. Which is a real shame because they are one of my all-time favourite bands. Like, I've listened to them a lot. And Cancer Bats were on my radar. I'd already seen them a few times, but because they played at Slam Dunk last year, I was like, okay, give them a chance. It's been a while. And their latest album, Psychic Jailbreak, came out and it filled that void. It is so dang good. Yeah. So my notes for this is this.album.slaps. So I recommend if you're into that kind of, I don't know, are they post-hardcore? That's what I would say. But I tell you what, terrible at putting things into genres. I tend to put them into feelings. Emo at heart, I guess. But yeah, they are like post-hardcore, full of energy, and I tell you what, they performed their hearts out at Slam Dunk. It was mint. Next up, Past Lives by Alice Dunes. If you don't know who they are, I mean, wild. They are kind of a supergroup, I guess. I don't think they want to be called that, but they have Anthony Green from Circus Survive. Take my shoes off, get cozy. Singing. There's members from Coheed, Thursday, and My Chemical Romance in there. Like, it's a good lineup, and the album I really like. I think it's had quite mixed reviews, but for me, I love it. It is something that's really familiar. It goes back to 2005, 2006 in my little heart, but it's new. It feels adult, more adult. It feels a bit older, like many of the sort of pop punky bands did. They've gone a little bit more adult, and I think it's important that that happens. But yeah, it really harks back to that whilst remaining new. Yeah, it feels so similar and reminiscent of an era that helped myself and so many others to grow and feel comfortable in their own skin, but it's new. Fresh air, but make it charged and energetic. I think that's not a bad review of that album. I will put all the links to the Spotify versions of these albums, and I'll do my best to find YouTube too. But yeah, I'm very excited to be going to see them this month as well with one of my best friends. Oops. I will. that was Alex laughing at my picture that I sent him because the postman keeps showing up when I am wearing outfits for videos. So he saw me as Lordna twice. And today I was sparkly all over, and Alex thought that was really funny. The next one is New Ruin by Flatliners. If you don't know the Flatliners, they are proper punk rock, I would say. They've been going for 20 years. I think the singer is only 35 years old, so pretty cool for a band that young to be, you know, still going strong and putting out really good music. It is it feels like a Flatliners album, and that's actually all I wanted. They have grown and evolved and done what they needed to, evolution-wise maybe, and I'm sure that'll change in the future, but it was exactly what I wanted. It has super catchy choruses, super good jumping, dancing rhythms, and they performed a lot of the tracks at Punk Rock Holiday last year, and again, they were flawless. That album actually only came out a week beforehand, and already in my head the choruses were just stuck. And it's a shame that me and Creative Anarchy didn't get to see them in the end, but we were going to go and see them in London at the Dome with the Menzingers? No, Spanish Love Songs. I saw the Menzingers with Spanish Love Songs before, that's why that confused me. But yeah, really, really fun album. I, again, recommend it. It stayed with me. It's been on repeat quite a lot. The next one's quite a recent one. It only came out in October or November, I think, and it's Endless Hallway by Here's Legend, who are still one of my favourites, but I always go back to their album I Am Hollywood rather than anything else for some reason. I just love it. There's a track called Eating a Book, and I don't know why I love it so much. The lyrics just it's good. I will put that in there too. I'll write that down. Eating a book. But my notes for this are such a vibe, I don't need to say anymore, and it is, if you are into sort of post-hardcore-y, I guess. I'm really bad at genres, and I don't Google things before. I don't know why, I probably should. But yeah, it's got oomph, it's got bite, super catchy, amazing riffs. Again, I'm not technical when it comes to music. I would love to learn to be more so, but I just know that for me it's about feeling, and it makes me feel good, and it helps me when I'm going to move my body. It gives me that oomph to keep going. Really good album. And in the same line as Every Time I Die, Cancer Bats area, Heavy Steps by Comeback Kid was released last year too, and I had never, just like Cancer Bats, really given Comeback Kid a chance, and I've seen them, but I'd never really gone, okay, I'll listen to you. And their performance at Punk Rock Holiday changed that. Like, I guess it's because I already have that that place in my heart. Like, when it comes to ska music, say, I tend to listen to Less Than Jake. And there's so many other bands that could fill that void. I don't know, Kill Lincoln. That I just go back to the one I love and know, because I am a creature of habit like that, and I want to change it a little bit, because it's times like this where you get a new album, you know, that would otherwise be filled with another gap. So for this, Heavy Steps would have been filled by Radical Threads? No. It's just called Radical, by Every Time I Die. Is that right? Yes. I mean, I'm a sausage. Yeah. Like, I wouldn't need to listen to Heavy Steps because Radical existed, but because I know I'm never going to see it Every Time I Die again, or at least in my head I'm not, I feel like fill it with the void of, well, a non-void with someone that I might get the chance to see and share these moments with. Very good. Also, very funny, Alex asked to have his photo taken with a gentleman at Punk Rock Holiday because someone thought he was the lead singer of Comeback Kid. And I think it was only because he had long hair, a beard, and was wearing a Hawaiian shirt. But this gentleman would not leave Alex alone until he got a picture with him. And it was quite funny. This one might be a little bit controversial because a lot of people that I know that love Slipknot have kind of written off their latest albums, but I happen to really enjoy them, and I wouldn't say more, but in equal amounts as their previous albums. And I really liked the album they released last year. It was called The End So Far. I had to check. But I feel like it had a good mix. It had a few tracks that sounded like early Slipknot, and a few that are very new. And I like that. So yeah, if you like Slipknot, I would give it a go. So this is what I've written. This one has a few tracks that take me back to their earlier days, and a few that took me by surprise, if I'm honest. I might be among the minority in my friendship group, but their last album, We Are Not Your Kind, was one of my favourite that they've released. This album has a little bit more of the oomph Slipknot that we're used to, and some epic moments too. Cool story, Cat, but yeah, I think that's kind of right. The next album is No Pressure by No Pressure, and this one I did read afterwards that there are members of this band that are people that sound and are familiar to me, so that's why it sounds so familiar. But what I've written, because it's quite silly and quite funny to me. Okay, this feels and sounds familiar. It is not pretentious, nor does it feature those weird Hollywood pop-punk vibes that have been vomited over my Instagram lately. It sounds old school, that's probably why I like it so much. An easy pop-punk listen that makes me want to jump up and down again. Yeah, that's exactly it. If you want a pop punk album that sounds old but is new with a bit of a modern twist, it's good. This next album is a band that we got to see in May, and I'm not sure if it was their first ever gig in the UK, but I think it might have been. We saw them at the Barfly in Camden, which is now called Camden Assembly, but it's still the Barfly because I am a creature of habit. And they really surprised me. We didn't really know what they were going to sound like. They'd put out a few tracks, and both members are the sons of Lars Ulrich from Metallica. The album is called Once Bit, Never Bored, and the band is Taipei Houston. And yeah, I felt like they had a lot to live up to, and I feel like, you know, there's going to be pressure there because they are the sons of who they are. But I'm not one to hold on to those kind of things, because just because my dad's a clever engineer doesn't make me that. You know what I mean? Like, from experience, I know that you're... So yeah, but I feel like they really, really went all in, above and beyond what they needed to do energy-wise. Skill-wise, like the way the drummer drums, the way the singer and bassist plays almost, well, he plays guitar parts on a bass and it sounds wicked, is phenomenal. And the album's really good. I was pleasantly surprised the whole way through. The energy on the album is high and captures their live energy too. Yeah. I mean, maybe not quite, but yeah, it's good. You can tell that they've got the right people around them to make that album the way they have, but if you've got access to it, like, luck is something that I think is quite interesting, and if you're down and out, like, you feel like you've been beaten down and you know, you're unlucky, your vision slowly tunnels, whereas if you think of yourself as lucky and having access, you're gonna see more. But having the confidence and being able to say yes to things, which I never used to do, idiot. I did a few things actually, but you know what I mean? Like, there's one thing being given stuff on a plate, but there's another thing being able to say yes and just doing it. And, you know, even at the risk of the rest of the internet being like, oh, but you're just doing it because you're... Anyway. No Oblivion by No Devotion is another album that I really like. I had never heard of this band until, I guess, when this was released, Spotify recommended it to me, and I was really impressed. I haven't listened to any of their earlier stuff, so I don't know what that sounds like, but it's slightly moody, it's post-rock, like, yeah, post-rocky, is that right? Yeah, post-rocky, kind of painful themes, but quite gentle music. Really good if it's a day like today where it's raining, it's moody, or if you're going to be at home and you just want to, like, snuggle in but feel. It's a really good album for that. Kind of whizzing through these, but I feel like this needs to only be short. We don't need to get into too much nitty-gritty. The next album isn't one of my favourites of the year, but I just needed to mention it because I've always really loved 4 Years Strong, and they haven't released anything in a little while. I really liked their last album. But this filled that void for me this year, and it is called Efforts by Bad Planning, and that's literally what I've written. I haven't had a dose of new 4 Years Strong in a little while, and this album kind of filled that easycore gap. So if you like a bit of easycore, the next album I wanted to mention because it is kind of more of the same, but I approached this album differently because of an article I read before I listened to it. And it's In the Wild, is that? Yeah, by The Interrupters. And I read an article that Amy, who is the singer, spoke about her upbringing and why this album's different. And it kind of got me. She had a tough upbringing. Don't read it if you're not in the right headspace. I wouldn't suggest that. The album itself sounds really fun, even though the thematically it's quite dark, because that's what the Interrupters do. They take something quite, angry, upsetting, and they turn it into, high energy, Rancid style music. It's wicked. They were a lot of fun to watch live. We saw them again this year, and it was probably the funnest set, but only because we were allowed to jump on the stage. But I'll read what I've written just because, again, past me is probably more coherent than I am right now. Not that I'm drunk. I'm not caffeine drunk. I feel like I'm saying this every time I'm online, which is dangerous. But anyway, this album is exactly what you expect from them. This album is exactly what you expect from the Interrupters, only the subject... This album is exactly what you expect from the Interrupters, only the subject matter is a lot more close to the heart. And it really is. Even with the weightiest subjects, it's filled with absolute bops, some cool collaborations and music to get you up and dance. It does. I really like the track with the Skins. And the real reason that I've included this is because of this interview. This is a heavy read, but the interview goes into more detail about Amy's past and to me made that latest album feel a little bit more than just a fun album to potter around the house to. And it really did. Some of the tracks I might not be that interested in if I actually hadn't read the story, so do recommend, or I've got goosebumps thinking about it. Weird. A standout song is a bit of a curveball and one that I don't think Alex will agree with me on, and that's totally fine when we don't all have to like the same stuff, and that's the idea. But it's Playing God by Polyphia. They've released a full album this year or last year, and I'll hold my hand up and say some of the tracks absolutely not for me. I do prefer, and I don't like to be that person, I prefer some of the earlier stuff, but I do. I really like the older stuff, and there's a few tracks that I really like on the new album, but a few that I absolutely would delete off my iPod, gone. But Playing God, really, I don't know why, it's really techie, like technical music that I no idea about, but I think it's wicked. I was maybe going to talk about throwback albums to 2021 because I didn't get a chance to do that last year, but I'm going to leave it here because I think that's right. We should just stop. I would be interested to look at my last FM and find out what new albums I actually did listen to most, and do a comparison to what I've kind of brought forward to my consciousness versus what I actually listen to most. But yeah, I hope that inspired you to reflect on your listening, what albums you loved last year, maybe make a playlist of those. And yeah, if you've got any recommendations, I say I'm all ears, I'm 2 ears. Quite carefully looked after ears. I'm not precious with a lot of things. If you've been here a while, you'll see that I am that'll do pig rather than nope, it has to be better all the time. But I've almost always worn earplugs to shows. There will be times where I'm so into it that I'll take my earplugs out and just be and feel, but it's important because I love music so much. And yeah, finally, I was just gonna say that every year I make a playlist that has a song a day. So whether sometimes, you know, sneakily add in a few at a time because something's popped up and I'm like, I don't want to miss adding this to this playlist. But I'll add a song a day, and whether it's something new that I've never heard before or an old track that I keep coming back to at the moment, like, it's a really fun thing to do. And if you're doing one, I'd love to know about it. So feel free to share them if you want. You can either put it in the comment-y thing down there or send it as a direct message. Yeah, also my information has changed. I am just Cat Weaver. It's a lot easier at catweaver@gmail.com or at catweaver on Instagram. But yeah, this was fun. Thank you for keeping me company for a little bit. I hope you're doing well, and I hope to see you again very soon. Don't forget to love each other.